Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now in life, you know what they say, nothing lasts forever, trees don't grow to the sky, on and on with the cliches. Well, it turns out a lot of this can actually apply to the world in credit and finance as well. So what do you do if you want to kick a credit card you've been using to the curb? Do you leave it on red? Do you take it out for ice cream? What do you do? The interaction's a little bit awkward to say the least. So on this episode, we're going to talk about how to correctly cancel a credit card. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, first things first, why would you want to cancel a credit card? Well, there's a few different reasons. A lot of cards, this primarily applies to cards with annual fees, because if a card doesn't have an annual fee, there's not really much of a reason to cancel it unless, you've really gotten upset or the bank has done something, to harm you and you just want to cut off your relationship. That would definitely be a reason. But, when it comes to annual fee cards, a lot of times we sign up for the huge sign-up bonuses, and once those are spent, after that, there may not be as much value there. Sometimes the underlying benefits of a card change over time. Sometimes the card continues to raise the annual fee over many years because nothing gets cheaper, or your lifestyle, your habits change. It's just not valuable for you. Whatever your reason is, these are all good reasons to have for canceling a card. But before you just go ahead and try to cut it up, there are a series of things we need to understand before we actually do this to avoid trouble and doing this the wrong way. So again, a lot of this is going to apply to annual fee cards, because when you talk about no annual fee cards, there's not, again, unless you're going through our first reason, there's not really much of a reason to cancel them. So we'll start there. So with annual fee cards, the first thing to know is when you cancel it matters. Now, annual fee cards are called annual fee cards because they charge you a fee annually to have the card. American Express Gold Card, Green Card, US Bank Altitude Reserve, these are all examples of annual fee cards. Now, let's just assume here you're signing up for year number one. So in year number one, let's call it January 1st of 2022. You're going to get the card, you'll do your thing, hit your sign-up bonus. Now, even if you only wanted the card for the sign-up bonus, you do not want to turn around and cancel the card within that first year. If you do that, what's going to happen is the card issuer is going to look at you and say, well, man, it looks like you were gaming the system, so I'm going to cancel it for you, but I'm going to claw back all your points. If you've already spent them, then you're looking at probably a negative balance potentially. You might even be blacklisted from other cards in the future. So you definitely don't want to do that. Instead, you really want to wait till month 13, which sounds weird, but what you want to do is wait until the annual fee posts again. So you're going to pay the annual fee as soon as you get the card in January of 2022, and then you're going to wait till basically it would probably be February of 2023, because it's going to happen at the end of your January statement, so technically month 13. Now, once that annual fee posts, then you can go ahead, call in, and cancel the card. Now, don't do that yet because there's still some more things we have to talk about, but that's kind of it. So a lot of these cards, you're definitely going to want to check the terms and conditions on the card you're focusing on, but a lot of these cards, when it comes to annual fee cards, if you cancel on month 13, right when that annual fee posts, within 30 days of that annual fee posting, that will be refunded to you. If you go beyond that 30 days, then, depending on the issuer, some of them will prorate your refund, some of them will say you're just kind of stuck with it. But either way, you do that because then there's no clawing back. You've kept the card for one full year. And then there's a lot less risk of being blacklisted or blackballed from getting future cards from that issuer. So that's what you would do with the annual fee. It seems counterintuitive, and just remember that the card issuer will never remind you that the annual fee is coming due. They never remind you, it just shows up on your statement magically one day, so you're going to have to keep track of that. So now let's move on to credit, and how does this actually affect your credit score? This is one of the biggest questions we get. So we know credit cards are a credit product. When you apply, they pull credit to make sure, you are who you say you are, you have a decent track record, you're likely to pay them back. So when you close a credit card, it is eventually going to fall off of your credit report. Your credit report is going to track all open accounts. Now, you do have about 7 years that it's going to stay on your report, to my understanding, from the time it's, open, from the time it's closed to, 7 years from now, it will fall off. So you will have that credit history for some time, but that will end up potentially affecting your average age of credit. It's definitely important to make sure that you're not canceling like one of your first credit cards. So for me, the OG Freedom card from Chase, I got that back in 2013. That's my oldest card. You wouldn't want to cancel that because that has so much credit history, right? You're talking about almost 10 years, 10 years of credit history on that card. So I would have it for a little bit, but eventually it would fall off. So if it's your oldest card, and luckily most folks' oldest cards are usually no annual fee cards, usually, so it's usually not that big of an issue. Now, a really quick note on here, there's no negative connotation if you cancel a card. It's not going to put a negative mark on your report or anything like that, but it will affect that average age of credit potentially. Now, another thing here to note is with business cards can actually have annual fees as well, but business cards, the vast majority of business cards out there, they end up pulling personal credit when you apply, but then they don't report to personal credit unless you have negative or derogatory marks. So if you close a business card, that won't hurt you as well. It won't even hurt your average age of credit because the majority of them don't report to personal credit. Now, one other note on credit, though, is credit utilization. So when you're talking about credit utilization, that's basically how much available credit you have versus how much you're actually using in revolving lines of credit, so credit cards. If you cancel a card, you're going to lose that line of credit. So you have you have 3 credit cards, right? $10,000 each, so you have a total of $30,000 available to you in revolving credit. If you cancel one of them, you're down to $20,000 in available credit. So that doesn't necessarily hurt your utilization ratio if you're not utilizing all of your credit. If you're paying everything on time, it's not that big of a deal. But you do have less in that denominator of amount of credit available, so it could potentially affect your utilization. Now, there is a potential way to get around this if you have multiple cards with the same issuer. So you've got a Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited, Sapphire Preferred. You want to get rid of the Sapphire Preferred because it's the annual fee. What you can do is first you can call into the issuer, or you could probably even do this through secured message or chat. You can say, hey, look, don't tell them you're going to cancel it. Say, I want to move some of my credit limit from the Sapphire Preferred over to the Freedom card, whatever it is. So you could do that, walk through how much you're actually able to transfer, because you can transfer credit limits from personal cards to personal cards and business cards to business cards, but you cannot cross between personal and business. That doesn't work. Even they can be in different families too, so it could be like a United card and a Chase card. That shouldn't be an issue for transferring credit limit. So there are some rules though, like for example, a Sapphire Reserve is a Visa Infinite card. Visa Infinite cards have to have a minimum of $10,000 in credit limit, so there might be a limit to how much you can move, but the point here is that you can move that credit, some of that credit over to help retain that credit balance or that available credit mix, as opposed to just wiping it all away if you're going to go that route. That works for personal and business cards, by the way. So now with that, let's talk about what happens to our points and what we need to know. So again, a lot of these cards we get to earn points. Now, if you're going to cancel a card, it really kind of depends on the issuer and how the issuer is set up, right? So if you talk about American Express and you have multiple American Express membership reward point earning cards, for example, well, all of those MR points pool into one bucket. So as long as you have one MR point earning card still open, your points are good. But if that was your only membership reward point earning card and you close it, well, those points are going to be gone. So in that example, you want to make sure you've transferred out those points or cashed out those points or whatever you want to do with them before you close. Now, some issuers in the terms and conditions, they do give you 30 days to basically move out, if you will, but either read the terms and conditions for your specific card, or in my opinion, it's still better just to cash out ahead of time and be proactive. Now, the same thing with Chase. Chase, they keep the ultimate reward points, for example, on all the cards individually, but you have the option to move them over. So I would do the same thing. If we're sticking to our example of closing the Sapphire Preferred, whatever points I had over there, I would either move them to the Freedom card, or you got to think about your options here when it comes to redeeming points. Not to be too specific, but the Sapphire Preferred, for example, allows you to transfer points out to airlines and hotel partners and things like that. So you might want to say, hey, I know I'm going to use these at Marriott or Hyatt or whatever. Let me move them over there. Just remember, you cannot move them back. Now, next up, let's talk about balances on your card. So if you have any outstanding balances, you're going to want to pay those off, right, before you go through this process. Now, again, with the annual fee, I wouldn't, as long as you're in that 30-day period, I wouldn't pay that because, again, you're trying to get that refunded. But if, you had, $250 annual fee and then like a $10 charge, I would pay off that $10 charge, you're still going to be responsible for it. They'll still try to bill you for it, and sometimes they won't even let you close your account until you pay it out and settle it up. So I would just really quickly take care of those. It's no big deal. You technically owe it anyways. Okay, and so with those notes accounted for, those are basically our pre-processed steps that we want to go through. Now, the actual act of canceling the card is actually fairly simple.
I'm going to shut it down. Shut it down.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Shut it down. Now.
So plan on calling in. Just tell them you want to cancel. Again, you've done everything in our pre-checklist, so it should be a non-issue. They're probably going to ask you why. Generally speaking, there is a data field on their side where they have to note some kind of reason on why you're closing the account. So, I think it's fine. You can just tell them whatever you want. You don't need it anymore. It's not working out for you. It doesn't really matter. Just stick to your guns and you want to close it. Now, with that said, though, you do have some options at this point. I won't go too far into it because I have separate videos on all of them. So especially when it comes to annual fee cards, there's something called retention offers. Now, not every card issuer gives you a retention offer or offers a retention offer, but American Express is one of them who usually can every so often. And basically, retention offer is saying, hey, don't cancel. Instead of you canceling, I will just give you, I don't know, a few thousand membership reward points, or for free sometimes, or if you do another spend requirement, you can think of it as like a mini sign-up bonus, perhaps. That will require you to keep the card open for one more year. Now, these could be worth your while, could not. It really just depends on where you're at and what you want to do and how you value the points. I have a full video on retention offers that I will link down below to help you out. Again, just kind of go into it, maybe think about it ahead of time, what you would want for it, keeping it, what's it worth to you, and that whole thing. Now, you also have two other options, which is called product changing up or down. And I have videos on these too, linked down below, but basically a product change is saying if you have a card that's in a family of cards. So if you take, again, the Chase lineup, you have the Sapphire Reserve Preferred, then the Freedom Flex, Freedom Unlimited, those cards. If you have a Sapphire Preferred and you're like, hey, I don't really like this anymore, you can downgrade it into, a Freedom card, or if you actually wanted to move it up to the Sapphire Reserve, you can upgrade it as well. It has to be after the first year of having the card because they cannot charge you a higher annual fee. If you want to upgrade, year number one, do the credit card act. Again, more information in the video down below, but those are also options. They might try to pitch you those as well. Again, just think about it. And the one thing I will say here is if you do product change, just remember you will not be eligible for a sign-up bonus because sign-up bonuses only apply to new accounts. They do not apply to a product change, which is technically the same exact account, just moving it to a new product. So there you go. Those are options you do have. Full videos down below. So with that, though, that's pretty much the process to cancel a card. Now, the last bit of this is going to be housekeeping. Once you have canceled it, if you want to go through and update your bill pays, your auto pays, things like that, just to make sure you're good there, you definitely want to do that. So overall, I definitely don't think canceling a card is a bad thing. I've done it myself. A lot of cards out there. There's a ton of cards out there. So, some cards just serve a specific purpose. You sign up one time, get your bonus, move on to the next card. It's nothing wrong with it. It's really not going to do that much damage, especially as you build out your arsenal having multiple cards. If you stick to those steps in the beginning, just not closing your earliest cards, you should definitely be fine. So anyways, guys, if you like this one, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you find it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. My question for you guys is let me know how you break up with a card or what cards you plan on breaking up with in the coming year. How do you view? What are some of the steps that you use, the process you use to either evaluate a product change versus a cancellation versus a retention offer and what have you? Love to get your thoughts on that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.